Welcome, everyone. I'm loving seeing everybody popping up on the screens here. Welcome, Kathleen and Anna and Gail. Yeah, seeing so many faces here. So I'm Michelle Yasuda, if you aren't familiar with me, and I'm the program director for the Foundation for Conscious Living's Big Leap Home online programs. So these programs support individuals, communities, and organizations in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And one of the beautiful ways that we express this vision and mission are these classes, are these Big Leap Home or Big Leap Bridge community calls that we have. And so some of you may have been around for this series. We're actually in the middle of a series on the drama triangle. So Katie Hendricks kicked it off and with an intro, and then we had a class on the hero. We're diving into the three positions on the drama triangle. So tonight, Nicole will be diving into the victim position. And I'm really excited to move into this next place. And I've been getting a lot of feedback that people are really enjoying this series. So I'm happy about that. So I just want to let everyone know, if you have not joined our Big Leap Home Network, this is an online community you can join at no cost. And you'll find out about opportunities like this class, and all kinds of Hendricks tools and practices. And you can also interact with some of our coaches, and Katie is on the network. So it's really a place where you can connect with us and discover and learn together. So I'll put a link in the chat when I'm complete here, and you can go ahead and join us. So if you have questions that pop up during this call, feel free to put them in the chat so that they're not stuck in your head, or maybe you jot them down, and or you can raise your electronic hand, and Nicole will go ahead and call on you if it's a good moment for that. And so please feel free to do that. And I think that is all from me. So I would like to turn this call over to Nicole. And before I do that, I would like to say an appreciation for you. That's a tradition here in our Big Leap Bridge world. And Nicole, when I am around you, I feel your deep love and presence. I feel this calm energy, and I know that my whole body relaxes when I'm around you. And I have loved every class that you have facilitated for us. And part of that is because of that feeling of deep presence and love that I have, that I feel and have for you. So I want to turn the call over to you, and thanks for being here tonight with us.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that appreciation, and it's such a pleasure to collaborate with you on these calls. I just love your genius in creating a welcoming space, and also just beaming love into the camera as anyone is facilitating. So you are such an outstanding coach in your own right. If there's anything that you want to chime in and say during the class today, I really do welcome that. So thank you all for coming to this course. It's going to be fun. I plan for us to have some fun. I think that the drama triangle is one of the best ways to really play, and also to understand the different ways that we unknowingly, until we learn about it, kind of rip ourselves off from our own magnificence and energy and aliveness. And once we know about it, it's still going to happen, don't worry. But because we have a deeper understanding of it, we'll be able to notice that it's happening and use some of the tools that we'll talk about today to come back to presence. So just want to start orienting you first to who I am. My name is Nicole Taylor. I've been a Big Leap coach I just pulled up my certification. So it was in 2012. My goodness, 10 years goes by in a really long time, really short time. So 10 years I've been a Big Leap coach. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. I'm the author of the book, A Joyful Pause, 52 Ways to Love Life. And that has some of the presencing tools that we'll talk about. I've been studying with Katie for quite some time and really just appreciate everything that I've learned from her and this community. And I'm happy to share that with you today. So I'd like to get your presence in the room. I wonder if you'd be willing to just take a couple of breaths with me. Maybe we'll take 3 continuous breaths together. And then I want to invite you to bodify how you're feeling this evening. So for some of us, it's 8 p.m. We might be feeling a little bit tired. We're already heading toward bed. And for others of us, it's 5:06 p.m. and you're just kind of coming into the end of your night. So wherever you are, I'd love if your camera's on. If your camera's off, you can either turn it on to share in this with us or keep it off. But wherever you are, please do bodify. And that just means using your body to communicate how you're feeling today. So maybe you're feeling like, woohoo, or maybe you're a little bit like this, or somewhere in between. So we'll start with 3 continuous breaths together. And then I invite you to make some sort of gesture that helps you land in the space together today. And so let's just take 3 easy breaths. And really feel the abdomen expanding as you breathe in. And feel that sense of emptying as you breathe out. And sometimes even just taking 3 continuous breaths can alert you to places in the body that are wanting some movement, places that are wanting your attention. Just let that happen. Let yourself notice where in your body feels really good. Maybe put your attention there and feel that sense of well-being growing from your attention. Good. And once you feel here, feel the soles of your feet on the floor or your bottom on your seat, just let yourself come back to the group. And all together, just make a gesture, shape with your body, a movement that embodies how you're feeling in this moment. Good. I love looking around and watching folks. Some are smiling. Some are leaning in toward the camera. Yeah. Good. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. So as we said in the beginning, this is your class. So as you have questions or things that you'd like to discuss, please just raise your hand or put it in the chat so we can keep it really, really easy and really connected. So we are here to talk about befriending our victim personas. And as I was preparing for this class, I was just reorienting myself to some of the common personas. And victim, I was happy I got this one to share because it's the one that I always felt like, I don't know if I have any of those. I think my hero didn't really want to claim that I have these. So it was truly a gift to take a look and say, oh, that one, yep, got that one. So any time that we can kind of claim the parts of ourselves that are a little bit harder for us to take, we actually move closer to being able to engage with those aspects of ourselves with more ease. So the idea of the victim persona, let's step back for 1 second and just talk about the drama triangle as a whole. So the idea of the drama triangle is that there are 3 major ways that we tend to cope or shift out of presence. One is the hero, and the hero is when we step into more than 100% responsibility, and we're really just kind of like world on the shoulders type vibe. The villain is when we are coming from a place of blame, and the victim and is when we're coming from a place of being at the effect of something or someone. And these are ways of showing up that can happen interpersonally, but then they can also happen within us. We can hero ourselves, we can villain ourselves, we can victim ourselves. So just thinking about these as different things that happen. Like something happens, maybe we get scared, maybe there's a conflict, but something happens. And if we go into a mode of self-protection, it usually looks like one of these three different ways of showing up. The thing that I love about thinking of it in that framework is that we can bring in some self-forgiveness. It doesn't have to be like, I'm on the triangle, I'm so mad at myself. We don't have to villain ourselves for getting on the triangle, right? We can notice that we have stepped into one of these three stress responses, and we can use the tools of presence to come back out. And this is happening all of the time, right? I was thinking about ways that one that gets me sometimes is sustainability. The idea of, wow, like what's happening with the earth is a place where, for me, a victim persona can come up, kind of bouncing between victim and villain, like, oh, why aren't we doing enough to save the earth? And the victim persona being like, oh no, there's just not enough we can do. Kind of anytime you feel that woe is me, or that kind of physical collapse, like your spine just rounds and you kind of hug into yourself, that's a sign that we're coming into the victim position. And the thing about the victim position is that it doesn't really allow for us to step into our full creative responsibility. Each of us that has come into a body has the ability to choose. And when we come into a victim mode, it's almost like we forget that we have that ability. We're just at the effect of something that feels hard or stressful for us, or that we don't like. So when we're in the victim kind of part of the triangle, we feel not only at the effect of, but we might hear ourselves saying certain things. So that's a question that people ask, like, well, how do I know when I'm in victim? If we hear ourselves saying things like, well, there's nothing I can do, or I have to do this, or this is so hard, those are signs that we're not as much in presence and we're more moving on to the drama triangle. I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was kind of in an overwork mode. I recently left my nonprofit job and I'm doing my wellness business full time. I was a little bit in overwork or overwhelm. And he said, and I was kind of doing the woe is me. And he looked me in the eye and with all of the love in the world and said, wow, you should really talk to your boss. And it made me laugh because my boss is me. So it was just such a wonderful kind of reflection, such a useful reflection. And as I said, this is with love. For me to see that, like, I think in the workplace, victim can come up a lot, a sense of overwhelm, overwork, not having power, not being able to stand up. Like those are things that can come up in the workplace quite a bit. And the gift of starting to work for yourself is you get to see how that plays out even when you're your own boss. And from that perspective, you can kind of see like, oh, wow, there's no one here but me. So that's an inner shift that needs to happen. But that inner shift is there for us, whether we're our own boss or not, right? That inner shift to be able to notice that we're showing up that way, and then come back to presence so that we can find our ability to choose, so we can find our inner creative energy that's available to all of us at any time. And even in the example of sustainability, while there may very well be things that are way out of our control, there are also actions that we can take. So I think even with some of the societal issues, it's really easy to come into any of the 3 points of the triangle. And I just invite all of us, when we find ourselves in any of those points, just coming back to, okay, let me come back to some of these presencing things. What can I say that's unarguable? How can I come into my breath in this moment? What do I really want? And what's the most immediate action step I can take to create that? So let's do some more bodifying. I think in order to really understand victim, it's about feeling it in your body, not just understanding it from the concept. So I'd like to invite you to stand up if you're willing. Sometimes when we're seated, it kind of parks our energy a little bit. We don't have that full sense of flow. So if you're able to, please stand up. If you're unable to or don't want to, that's fine. We're going to try on the 3 different ways that we might come onto the triangle as victim. So the first one is just think of something that sometimes you feel overwhelmed with, or like you're not able to find something that you feel at the effect of. And just kind of like let your posture slump. And just kind of like, meh. It's how it is. It's just going to be that way. Just like feel that in your body. Notice the sensations. Like as soon as I do the kind of like, meh, I feel a sense of, actually feel some heat in my head from doing that. Like no energy in the low body, but heat in the head. So that's just victim at the first level. We're not really going for it just yet, but we're trying it out for size. And then let's try the medium victim. So for the medium one, there's the same kind of collapse in the body and also the same shrug, but this time add a sigh, like, I also felt like my back of my neck got longer too. So it's like, well, it's all on me. Or, well, I don't really have a choice. Just notice how that feels. Notice any sensations that accompany that, and notice if those sensations feel familiar at all. And then we'll come into the third one. And in the third version, we're really just kind of gonna shrug, sigh, and then add your biggest complaint. We're all muted. Well, you're all muted. Add your biggest complaint in your whiniest voice. So like, oh God, I just have so many meetings. I'm never gonna get all this stuff done. Yeah, good. So I'm seeing Michelle's head hanging kind of low. I'm seeing Christina's hands just flop. I'm seeing Gail kind of like turning away and body kind of swinging. The arms are swinging. I'm seeing Nicole's kind of shrugging, arms swinging too. Yeah, so just notice how that feels in your body. Great. And then shake it off. Shake it off, bring your breath back, come back to you, and then let's come back. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask you all about is when I try that on, I notice there is this kind of like dead in the pants energy followed by like a bzzz of adrenaline, kind of like there's energy is parked. And then after the complaining, especially with the last one, after the sigh and the shrug and complaint, it was kind of like I noticed my victim had a flavor of righteousness to it. Like, oh, there's nothing I can do. It's all their fault. Had a little bit of a villain tacked onto it. So how about for you? What did you notice in your body when you tried on those 3 different ways of being on the triangle and victim? Powerlessness. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, there's this sense of just not having choice. Yeah, Nicole, thank you. Hopelessness. Michelle says heavy. Right. Kathy says numb. Yeah. Ellen, go ahead and unmute if you'd like to share.
Thank you. First of all, I'm sorry I missed the first one, which is hero. I came to know about this drama tangle only at this middle part. So when I did the exercise, that's very helpful because it's made me see that, yeah, I view myself as a victim, whereas previously I thought I was coming from a hero side, thinking, okay, everything has to be done by me. I cannot change this thing. I thought I was taking on the role of a hero, but I now can see it's actually coming from a victim point of view. So actually, I have a question. If this is the right time for a question,
Sure.
does the victim perspective actually can launch a person to a hero position? So that's sort of like my confusion. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate you bringing that up, Ellen. Yes, I noticed Katie called it the run around the bases. So we have these 3 points on the triangle and we don't always park on one of them. Sometimes we're kind of moving between 2 different points because they are connected. So what might happen for you is that the first move is the hero persona that wants to take on more than 100% responsibility. And then when that doesn't work, it goes into kind of like the victim flop. So it sounds like there's a connection there where you're kind of bouncing between those 2 points. Does that resonate?
Yeah, so it's sort of like I'm taking up more than 100%, then I thought that I cannot do it. But since I want to make it happen, I sort of like going back, taking more than 100%. So it's like sort of a spicy circle that's going on. Thank you.
Picking up the boulder, putting it back down, picking it up. But that's what it sounds like, kind of going back and forth. Yeah. So
Yes,
remembering
thanks.
also one thing. Oh, you're so welcome, Ellen. One way to think about these clusters of personas is that they arose either as a coping skill that worked in one situation, but then we just kept using it as a part of, became kind of like a part of how we were showing up. They also are ways that when we were in our family of origin or whatever the social conditioning is, when our way of showing up, when we felt like we needed more love or wanted more love, we kind of find these ways that in the moment, it feels like we're getting that. But then what happens over time is it reduces our ability to choose. So just wanting to offer that these are ways of taking more or less responsibility that did arise in a moment of need. And what we want to do is notice when we're back in that space, and this time coming from a place of presence, really be able to choose how we want to respond instead of it being this patterned behavior that is no longer serving. So let me just pause here and look at the chat to see what some of the things that, so folks were still sharing how they experienced the victim. I feel the kickstart into villain and want to flee from that. So stuck. Thank you for sharing that, Brian. Great. And thank you, Michelle, for putting those links in. So let's talk a little bit about some of the kind of classic victim personas and what they say so that you can get curious about how these show up for you. So if you find yourself kind of in a constant complaining mode of saying, why is it that way? That is a victim persona. There's not as much choice there. It's just like, why? And I can almost hear the whine of it too, of like, why is it that way? You can hear that there's not like a, hey, what might I do to impact this? It's just kind of a stuck in the complaining. Or if there's a constant worrying, things happen and maybe we attend to them and we move through that. But if there's a kind of almost scanning, looking for problems and locking onto it, that's more of a worrywart type persona. This is the one that I was like, oh no, I have that sometimes. Unappreciated genius. Sometimes feeling like people don't see my value. And the great thing about noticing these is that you can come into a sense of play. It doesn't have to be this horrible, embarrassing secret. You can, to the extent that you play with it, you're befriending it, and then you have more agency. So one really wonderful way to play with things is to magnify them. So sometimes if I hear it coming and I'm talking to Ambrose, my husband, I might go into, they don't see my value, just really hamming it up of how much I'm unappreciated. I have to do it all alone until it's funny, because to the extent that it feels so serious, it's harder, not harder, but there's just less of a chance that we'll get curious about it and engage with it and come into a place of willingness to shift. Whereas really trying it on, magnifying it, doing the voice of it, taking on the body posture of it, it can become, it can make you laugh, and then you can see a different way to relate to it. So just offering that as a way to play. This is how we play with personas. It's not like, ooh, I don't want anyone to know I've got this inner victim. It's more like, oh, when I hear that, if I ham it up a little bit, it's not so scary. And then I can get curious about, I wonder what's underneath that. And maybe that leads to a persona interview, which we'll do in a few minutes. Or maybe that leads to the moment of humor, making us just accept ourselves even more than we already do, because we know that we're each human, and that was a learned behavior that we're ready to not be so in the grip of. So I'm gonna, oh, he is. Thank you, Jennifer. I do have his permission to always bring him up when I'm facilitating. And he is a wonderful audience and a playmate. So a couple of other ones. Let's try on some other ones until, and like I invite you to just try on, what do you think the body posture of these is? Try it on for yourself. You might find one that was hidden, and once you find it, then you can play with it and then you can shift it. So overworked. I did say this to Michelle on the call. I'm so tired. That might just be time difference, because I didn't feel adrenalized after I said it. And sometimes if you hear yourself saying that over and over and over, that's when we know that it's a persona. If you hear yourself say something one time, maybe that's just how you feel in the moment. But when the constant refrain, if you have dinner with your person and every night it's, oh, I'm so tired, I've got too much going on, that's a moment to really get curious and to, I wonder what's happening there. I'm wondering how I might presence myself. The other day we were on vacation and I got a ton of emails about something, and I was mad about having to respond to them. And I was putting some clothes in my suitcase, and I was like, I don't think their urgency should be my urgency. This sucks. And I heard the tone of like it sounded like a teenager actually to me. It sounded like a teenage Nicole. And as soon as I heard that, I started cracking up and then took a breath. And then it's like, okay, are you at the effect of someone else's urgency? How do you want to be with this situation? And it's like, I think I actually want to say I'm on vacation and I will respond to you when I'm back next week. And then I sent that email and then I was out of victim. So the more we play with this, the more we can turn toward when we hear ourselves say those things, or when we feel the adrenaline, or when we feel the body posture, the more we can turn toward it, the more we can decide how we want to shift. And to the extent that we're like, ooh, I don't want to acknowledge that I had that feeling or that I had that thought, then we actually are kind of giving that choice away because it doesn't feel, we don't experience it as an option for us. So I'm seeing the comment here from Karen Deep. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, victim of being a victim. Yeah, you're funny. Yeah, exactly. So just playing with them, a victim of being a victim. So definitely I kind of heard it in that voice. So just finding ways to, my friend Nicole is here. We know each other from more of a meditation, Ayurveda perspective. And there's this idea in that community of holding things lightly, to the extent that we're not like, ooh, when we hold it lightly, it just gives us more agency. Mm-hmm. So let's try on some more. How about the Martyr? See if this is familiar. I have to sacrifice myself. And the piece that's really interesting about some of these personas is that they actually require someone, I think of it as a rope. They actually require someone on the other end of the rope. So if we're in unappreciated genius, the example we gave earlier, that actually requires having people around you who don't see you. So there's a choice to be made there. In Martyr, I have to sacrifice myself. That actually requires having people around you who aren't engaged. And then you're just picking up all the pieces, right? With resigned, I don't have a choice. When we hear ourselves saying things like we don't have a choice, there's some information there about our relationship to authority and whether or not we've claimed our own authority or whether we have completely outsourced it. See, that happens a lot more in the workplace. Misunderstood. You don't know my pain. Do you ever try that one on? Someone saying, you don't know my pain. That requires people who aren't present with us, who don't listen. Those things will recycle and recycle and recycle if we are surrounded by if the community that we have around us is not really willing to listen. And also, I think that happens, we can kind of do that to ourselves by not presencing ourselves, not listening to our own selves, right? Journaling is a great way to listen to yourself. So if we don't have those outlets to really notice what's going on with us, then it's easy to have that feeling of being misunderstood. How about the reliable one? I can't have any fun. Everybody else gets to have all the fun. I'm just too busy doing the right thing. How about that? I felt like a yuck from that one. That requires people who do whatever they want, where there's not this sense of connection and everyone taking 100% responsibility, but there's this other energy. So when in some of these examples, what do you notice about your victim personas? Do you want to put some of your victim personas in the chat? And then we can, and so I would say it like this. I invite you to put some of your victim personas in the chat. And then maybe I'll read it out and we can try them on and see if maybe we can, relate. Anna's saying, or if someone is overly compassionate toward me, it makes me feel like a victim. It feels like they don't think I'm adequate. Yeah, so I wonder about, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Anna. I think I appreciate you sharing how you feel there. Brian says, unwilling dictator. Okay. This is a good one, Brian. Okay, I'll tell everyone what to do. I'm forced to boss you all around. That's a good one. Jessen says, it's hopeless. Yeah, you can kind of feel the collapse in that. Oh, Gail, Wanda Weiner. I do everything. Yeah. Folks want to try that one on. Everything. Make the body posture. Good. Oh, I like Karen Deep's one. Oh, so righteous. I'm the only one who knows what to do here. It's a lot. Ellen, the reliable one, and the martyr. Yeah. Oh, I have to sacrifice myself again. Right? What do you feel in your body when you try those on? Like the more I do them, I can feel so much heat building. Literally have a physical reaction to trying those on. How about you guys? Hey, Christina, nobody's getting back to me. Yeah, I said that like the girl from that one kids movie, but yeah, I like that one. Nobody's getting back to me. Yeah. Good. So as I think my kind of thing I'm really hoping that you take from this is that oh, Todd, that's a good one. I have to stay here and listen to this. Hope you're not talking about this class, Todd. Just kidding. I have to stay here and listen to this. That's a good one too. Brian says that when he tries it on, he feels a deadening coldness in his solar plexus. Yeah, so kind of like a block of energy, it sounds like. And then Gail said she's getting more and more tired rather than adrenaline energized. Interesting. So you're finding that your energy is dipping lower and lower and lower. And Jennifer says, I've been depressed since I was 13. I'm owning my victim completely. Yeah, Jennifer. So this idea of befriending your victim and moving into your inner creator. Like, oh, okay, I have these patterns that have been in my life for some time, and today I can come into my breath and I can get curious about what I really want to create. Really love that sound of just letting that kind of massage your whole body and coming into that place of curiosity. What do I really want as it relates to this? Or I wonder how I could add more play to this. Or I'm wondering how to love myself as I am right now in this moment. You know, these are different ways that we can work with the persona. So it's not that we are wanting to push the persona away. It's more that we want to know when it's up and then be able to shift back into presence. Because when we shift back into presence, we're able to shift back into essence. And a lot of these personas have information for us. Some of them, all of them actually, have a gift that maybe we haven't uncovered just yet. So that moves us into just a little bit more about what the victim personas seek out. They seek out help. They seek out security. This is all coming from outside. They seek out people who want to rescue them. They seek out problems that are overwhelming. So these victim roles really kind of declare defeat. It's like game over. Or if it's not game over, it's like game terrible, and it's just going to always be like that, right? There's the element of being stuck in there. And the juice that happens comes from someone coming along and trying to fix it. And so what we want to do when we're shifting from being at the effect of to kind of coming into our own agency and claiming our own power, we are really wanting to get curious about how we can step into 100% responsibility with that issue. So like in my example of feeling at the effect of everybody wants the email back right away, that's me kind of giving them the power, right? Like, oh, well, they emailed me, so I have to write them back right away. No, I don't. So what's there? Oh, okay, what's my agency? I am on vacation. I'm choosing to be away, and I will get back to you later. Now, there may be a consequence for that I don't necessarily like, but that's okay. That it's really about coming back to that sense of being able to choose. Let me see what's happening in the chat here. So, good. Yeah, so we did try on a bunch of different victim personas. Take care of yourself. If you have to wiggle your body a little bit to shake it off, if you have to give yourself some love scoops, if you have to just take a couple of breaths, whatever helps you to feel like you're coming back to you, please go ahead and do that. Cherry shares, looking for validation from others rather than connecting and caring for yourself. Yeah, so that's really where the victim is coming from. And the ways that so when we're kind of coming into our set of victim personas, there's different ways that that's happening. Sometimes it's, we get distracted. Sometimes it's worrying is a really strong way that our set of victim personas will drift out of presence. So there's also maybe trying hard. That's that kind of unappreciated genius. Like we're trying so hard and we don't feel seen. So just see if any of these sound familiar to you. We really want to learn to locate these in ourselves and be able to make the shift and understand what the gifts are. So I'll stop there and see if there's anyone who'd like to have one of their personas interviewed, so you can see the persona interview is something that Katie and Gay created, and we walk through, kind of start off by stepping into another part of the room, taking on the body posture of that particular persona, so we really can feel the sensations in the body that are associated with showing up that way. And then I'll ask you what you'd like to be called. You'll tell me what you'd like to be called, and I will ask you a number of different questions, and you'll answer from that persona. And when we get to the end, you'll step out of the persona, give a wiggle or whatever will allow you to come back into yourself. And then if there's anything you'd like to share, we can do that. So it looks like Brian is into it. Thank you, Brian.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So what's the name of this persona?
Planet Chaser.
Planet Chaser. All right, great. So go ahead and find a place in the room where Planet Chaser wants to be, and then step into the posture. Take the posture of Planet Chaser.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Planet Chaser, what's the most important thing to you?
Fixing everything.
Mm-hmm. Planet Chaser, what are you most proud of?
Seeing really big possibilities.
Planet Chaser, when did you make your first appearance?
5.
Planet Chaser, what are you most afraid of?
Just getting crushed by it all.
Planet Chaser, what do you most want?
To see what's mine to do.
Thank you. All right, step out of Planet Chaser, back into Brian.
Whew.
Good. Go ahead. Nice.
Mm.
And how do you feel now? What do you notice?
A little bit more like I can laugh at myself. So kind of a lightness. And I noticed that right here feels really tight. And so, yeah, so I'm getting curious about like, this is often a sign for me of like, I'm spending a lot of time in the bucket of things I don't control. So the worry muscles are exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what prompted me to stand up is the big unsolvable problems is an orientation that I reliably have. And so I'm looking at how I can get unstuck in seeking out those where I can look at that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that. I wonder, yeah, I hope you'll keep that as a wonder question for the next few days of what is yours to do. I think that there are big things that need our attention in the world, and how might we engage with them in ways that give us more aliveness and are in our file. That whole idea of what you said earlier about things you can control and things that you can't control. So I can sit around and I can obsess over Monsanto, who I cannot control, or I can choose to buy products that don't, right? So like, there's always those two things of like the victim persona kind of wants to sink into the things that we have absolutely no agency over.
Yeah.
And the creator says, okay, if what I really want is to see a planet that thrives, what are the choices that I can make in support of that? I can recycle it, so I'm just really appreciating you surfacing this example, because I think it's one that I think it's a reliable one. So thank you so much.
I felt very grateful that in the last session I got to unpack my hero personas, and this persona has been my daily companion until today. So thank you for helping me play into the persona and get a breath. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So welcome. All right, so check the chat and then take the last. Yeah. Oh, good. So Brian, your share really is resonating with so many folks in the chat. So again, just big appreciation for being willing to learn in public, because it just supports everyone else who's there. Justin is there right with you. Todd is noticing the connection of victim and hero roles. Yeah. So it's almost like we think of things as having these three different points, and often there's some connective tissue there. So there's a part of you, the orientation to sustainability can often have all three, right? It can be the villain of, what are the companies that are not, I don't think they're doing the right thing, and the victim of like, there's nothing we can do, and the hero of like, I'm gonna solve it, right? So I think can be super helpful to notice that, how those flavors come together. Michelle, are you able to kind of put us back to, looks like
you just have to press your gallery view now.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, I can see everybody. I'd like to see all of your faces. Okay, great. Yes, Christina, there was a burst of aliveness when he said what it was that he really wanted. Yeah. Wonderful. So I'll offer, if anyone else has one they'd like to interview, I'm happy to do that, or we can move into ways to shift into presence. So I want to leave you with the tools. I want to leave you with what are the things that you can do when you hear one of these personas, when you hear that arising in you. And also I want to make room, I love to make room for the dissenting voice. So if there's anyone that's like, damn it, my victim is accurate, you know, we can talk that through as well. And because that's important. I'm not going to try to convince you of anything, and want to make sure that all voices that want to be heard are heard. All right, well, looks like with no hands for the interview, let's move into ways to shift into presence. So when we hear, but first let me ask, does everyone have at least one victim persona that they're aware of? Everybody have one? Okay. All right, great. Maybe 10. Did you say 10, Terry? I've got a list of my own. All right. So the first thing I want to do is just like kisses to your victim. Right? Like there's this element of befriending that aspect of ourselves, loving those aspects of ourselves. Yeah, good. So this is not about, what I want to be sure is communicated is that this is not about jumping on the villain part of the triangle because we found a victim persona, right? We don't want to be judging ourselves for that. That's not what this is about. This is about noticing these ways that we come off of presence, seeing how we might be willing to play with it, and then using our presencing to come back to presence so that we're available for choice. So magnification, making it bigger, is one of the best ways to really interrupt these behavioral patterns. So if you can sing it, if you can exaggerate it like you're on, I mean, I get into it like I'm on some sort of Shakespearean stage, just really get into it. That's a really nice way both to bring in the element of play, and when we bring in the element of play, we actually are enabling ourselves to learn even more deeply. So bringing in that element of play is one way to shift back into presence. Breath. So there can be this, oh, thank you, Christina. I like to burst into Broadway voice, love it. So breath, coming back to our conscious breath, the kind of connected breaths that we did at the beginning of our time together, those are ways to, when we kind of feel that body, the body sensations of victim, hopefully by all of the different ones that we tried on today, hopefully you can feel that. So when we have that collapse, when we have that kind of shrug, when we notice ourselves doing that, it's like, okay, I notice a victim persona is up. I'm just going to take a couple of breaths and come back to what's happening in my presence right now. Change your posture. So if you're sitting in a meeting and you're starting to feel that energy of, oh, it's always going to be this way. So-and-so is always going to suck all the air out of the room and get everything that they want said, and I don't get to say anything. You're kind of feeling that womp, womp, womp. Change your posture. Let yourself, maybe, you know, lots of us are working from home now. Maybe you stand up. Maybe you sit up a little bit taller. Maybe you, you know, give yourself some physical movement so that you can come back to present moment awareness. Claiming responsibility is a huge one for this. So when you have that sense of, at the effect of, the claiming responsibility pieces, like in the example of, I don't want to have this urgency from the emails that I'm getting. Oh, wait a minute. Someone might be coming at me with urgency, but if I just get sucked into that and participate with it, then I'm actually responsible for co-creating that dynamic. So if I claim responsibility, it's like, hey, wait a minute. Okay, this person would like some work from me. Am I willing to do that at this moment? Or maybe I'm willing to do that later. I was on vacation, I'll do it later. So there's this claiming responsibility, not just going with, I think the at the effect of is kind of like a this energy, but it's also just kind of like, because of the slump, just going with whatever the larger energy is in the space. And so the claiming responsibility is kind of like stopping that, just going with the flop and getting curious. Okay, let me take responsibility for this situation, and how do I want to be showing up in that? Speaking unarguably is another really wonderful way to come off of that victim part of the triangle. And unarguable is, for some of you that are newer to the community, let me just unpack that a little bit. So when we're speaking unarguably, we might be speaking about our sensory experiences. So I noticed that I saw an image of a circle in my mind. That's something that we saw in the mind. Or I noticed I felt my stomach tighten. So that's inner sensations is another piece of information that we can share that's unarguable. I noticed when I heard you say X, I felt sad. You're not saying you made me feel sad, you're claiming responsibility for that feeling that arose in you. And then also just sharing thoughts that are coming up. So maybe you're saying, oh, when I heard XYZ, I saw a picture of, and whatever the picture was that arose. So the ability to speak to what's happening in us in communication and relationship is a way to come back into presence, noticing the body sensations, noticing our senses, emotions, and thoughts. That's a reliable way to come back into our presence. All right, so those are a few that, and we talked about getting curious and making the sound of earlier. So just wanted to leave you with a couple of different ways that when you notice it, and you will, because we're human and that happens, just shift. And one of these tools is a really reliable way to come back to your presence. So I'll stop there in case we have any questions before we bring it home for a landing. And I also just end with a quick appreciation for your presence and your willingness to play, your curiosity and your engagement. Thank you. But here for questions if you have them. Ooh, Brian, I'm ready to receive what's mine. That's nice. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ellen.
Anybody have a question? Are you feeling complete?
I have a question. In our work, we often meet people who have designed their work life to be overwhelming. And when we work with them, we offer options for their work to be less overwhelming. And they choose to keep what they have, I think, because they feel secure, knowing that they have too much to do. And so I was curious in using these tools, given that you've been doing this for 10 years, like, what have you noticed in encountering that? Do you see that as like a persona that you're interacting with? How would you sort of bring these tools and this concept to that conversation?
Yeah, so it sounds like if someone there's a cookie to it. It sounds like there's some sort of cookie.
Yeah, I have too
You know,
much to do, so I can't be gotten rid of, right? There's that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, personally, if it's a client and we're working with that, I literally will ask them, like, what is the cookie? What is the juice that
What are you getting
out
out of this? Yeah.
And often they know exactly what the juice is. And then it's like, great. So you know that. So let's talk about if you want to keep getting your juice that way, or if you are ready to find a new way to fuel yourself. And sometimes the answer is no. And that's where they are.
Yeah.
And they'll keep bringing up the same issue, and I'll keep asking, what's the cookie? And at some point it's like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's when we can shift it. But again, that's the not heroing them, right? Like they have to come to that. So
Interesting. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Mm.
All right, we went a minute over. That was good. Sorry, Michelle.
Oh, yay. Well, there's a lot of thank yous. You should save the chat, Nicole. And anybody who wants to save the chat with all the resources, you can press the little button at the bottom of your chat, the little 3 dots, and it should let you save it. So thank you everyone for being willing to be with us with this journey of learning about our victim personas. And Nicole, thank you so much. So much amazing information. Actually, I just realized that I have a resource. We shared the hero resource. I'm going to go ahead and share this resource, this amazing resource about the victim persona. So you're welcome to download that. And that's it from me. So thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you. We'd love to see you. Gail is here. If you want to wave, Gail. Gail will be leading our class on the villain in 2 weeks. I think that's 2 weeks, right? Yeah, in 2 weeks. So hope to see you all there. I put lots of links in the chat. And thanks. If you want to unmute yourself and say goodbye. Love to hear your voice.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
It's wonderful.
The gift.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, great
You're
information.
welcome. Bye. Oh, good.